check me good. You on the camera? I got a gun in my nut. Check me good. I got a gun. All right, y'all let me in that car. Shoot myself dead. Y'all fire. Sue all that.
Searched by the FBI after the Bureau executed federal search warrants in California, Las Vegas, and Arizona.
The warrants were made in connection to investigations around, quote, allegations of criminal.
He was convicted on his charges. He's not facing light time. He's facing life in prison. Now, last time I reported on this story, we had little info about the man he's accused of murdering, beyond that he was an aspiring rap artist signed to his label.
4PF Collective, a brand that transcended music to become a cultural statement. He was the embodiment of the American dream. Or rather, the Atlanta dream. A kid from the streets who navigated the treacherous path to stardom, seemingly leaving his troubled past behind. His music resonated with millions, telling tales of struggle, ambition, and loyalty, painting vivid pictures of the world he came from. The rise was meteoric, built on raw talent and an authentic voice that captured the zeitgeist of a generation. Fans saw him as an inspiration, a testament to overcoming adversity. The flashing lights, sold-out arenas, and collaborations with music's biggest names painted a picture of an artist untouchable, living a life far removed from the struggles he rapped about. Yet, lurking beneath the surface of this glittering empire, according to subsequent legal proceedings, were the shadows of unresolved conflicts and entanglements that fame couldn't erase. The very loyalty he celebrated in his lyrics, the foundation of his 4PF identity, would later become a focal point of intense scrutiny by federal authorities. His journey wasn't just a rags to riches tale. It was, as the narrative unfolded in court, a complex interplay between the artist's persona and the alleged reality.
Lil Baby is facing up to 20 years in prison after a federal gun charge has been placed on him. So, let me run you down the story.
Realities of the streets he never fully left behind, a duality that would ultimately prove devastating. The collective he founded, intended perhaps as a symbol of unity and success, became, in the eyes of the prosecution, an organized entity allegedly involved in activities far removed from music. This dissonance between the public image and the private allegations set the stage for the dramatic unraveling that was to come, a stark reminder that sometimes the past has a way of catching up no matter how fast or how far you rise. The federal government, with its vast resources and unwavering focus, began to look closely at the connections, the finances, and the communication surrounding Lil Baby and 4PF, piecing together a narrative that would challenge the carefully crafted public image. The catalyst that ignited the inferno of legal troubles was a tragedy of unimaginable scale. The brutal deaths of two 13-year-old boys. Their young lives were extinguished in a hail of gunfire, a devastating event that ripped through a community already grappling with the specter of violence. This wasn't a random act, according to the investigation that followed. It was, prosecutors alleged, a direct consequence of a vicious cycle of retaliation. The fuse for this cycle was reportedly lit by something.
Tonight, 11 Alive has confirmed rapper Lil Baby is named in arrest warrants in the shooting deaths of 13-year-olds Lamont Freeman and Jacody Davis. The shooting happened last summer in the Oakland City West End apartments on Peoples Street.
Seemingly innocuous in the world of hip-hop, a music video shoot. But this wasn't just any music video. It was a shoot that allegedly took place in territory considered rival by factions connected to Lil Baby's 4PF Collective. In the hyper-localized, often volatile landscape of street affiliations, such an act was perceived not as artistic expression, but as a profound disrespect, a challenge that demanded a response. The unwritten rules of this world dictated that such a perceived transgression could not go unanswered, setting in motion a chain of events that escalated with terrifying speed and deadly consequences. The deaths of the two young teenagers were the tragic, devastating culmination of this escalating conflict. They were caught in the crossfire, innocent bystanders whose futures were stolen in a conflict that had nothing to do with them directly, but everything to do with the beef that had been brewing. The sheer senselessness of their deaths brought intense public and political pressure to bear, demanding accountability and justice. This pressure amplified the urgency of the investigation, turning a local homicide case into something that would soon involve federal resources, tracing the threads of responsibility higher and higher up the chain, ultimately leading to the doorstep of one of music's big.
You ever heard the saying, make you or break you? Like, it's either gonna make you or break you. And meaning like make you into something or break you down. In prison, you spend a lot of time alone. You have a whole lot of time to think about what's going on around you. I wanna be there, period. But I had to be there, but I won't let my mind be there. My body a lot of places that my mind never go. I forced myself to do that, for good and for bad. And I learned that the most in prison.
Biggest stars, the grief of the families, the shock of the community, and the stark reality of 2 young lives lost fueled the determination of law enforcement to understand every facet of the incident and hold those responsible fully accountable, no matter their status or influence. The initial investigation into the homicides quickly broadened, connecting the dots between the shooting, the prior incidents of violence, the music video shoot, and the individuals and groups allegedly involved, prominently featuring the 4PF collective in the prosecution's developing narrative. The gravity of the incident and the alleged connections to organized street activity drew the attention of federal authorities. This marked a significant shift in the legal landscape for Lil Baby and his associates. What might have remained a complex local investigation was now elevated to a federal level, bringing with it the full force and resources of the government. The investigation that followed was described as extensive and painstaking, a deep dive into the world of 4PF and its alleged operations beyond the recording studio. Federal agents employed a comprehensive suite of surveillance techniques, painting a detailed picture of communications, movements, and associations. Wiretaps became a critical tool, capturing conversations that prosecutors would
supposed to make it. We're supposed to be a statistic, right? You think the feds, DEA, IRS, FBI, everybody's fucking watching, bro. Everybody's fucking watching. I realized this because, let me tell you, we used to go to clubs, bro. I remember one time I went to a club. I had nothing on me, right? I was like, I don't want to get searched.
Later argue revealed the inner workings of the collective and crucially provided evidence of alleged criminal activity. Every call, every text message, every intercepted communication was logged, analyzed, and interpreted by experienced investigators looking for patterns, commands, and connections. Social media, often seen as a platform for artistic expression and fan interaction, became another rich source of data. Investigators scoured posts, messages, photos, and videos looking for hidden meanings, coded language, and explicit discussions related to the alleged criminal enterprise. The digital footprints left across various platforms provided a parallel narrative to the intercepted communications, reinforcing or contradicting the information gathered elsewhere. Even messages sent using features designed for ephemeral communication, like disappearing mode on apps, were reportedly retrieved and used as evidence, a stark reminder that in the age of digital forensics, true privacy can be elusive, especially under federal investigation. This relentless surveillance effort wasn't merely about gathering evidence on isolated incidents. It was about building a case that portrayed 4PF not just as a music label, but as an organized criminal enterprise operating under the guise
of being officially indicted for a RICO. The catalyst for the criminal complaint to get them off the streets, bring them in, and officially work on a RICO was the deaths of these 2 young men, Jacobody Davis and Lamont Freeman, 2 13-year-olds that was tragically killed when Goodfellas attempted to spin the block on 4PF, Lil Baby's group. A lot of this you already heard before, but we're just recapping so we can get to the bombshell that dropped today. Trust me, it's bombshells that dropped today. So Atlanta PD blamed Lil Baby for this. It said,
eyes of a rap collective. The focus shifted from viewing Lil Baby merely as a figurehead, the face of the brand, to positioning him as a central suspect, allegedly involved in directing or facilitating the very activities being investigated, including the violence that led to the tragic deaths of the 2 teenagers. This transition from artist to alleged orchestrator was a crucial pivot in the prosecution's strategy, framing his influence and authority within 4PF as proof of his leadership role in the alleged criminal activity, not just his musical career. Investigators meticulously pieced together years of data looking for connections between communications, alleged criminal acts, and Lil Baby's involvement, building a complex web of evidence intended to demonstrate his culpability beyond a reasonable doubt. The sheer volume of data collected from wiretaps and digital platforms required immense resources for analysis involving linguists, gang experts, and digital forensic specialists to interpret coded language, identify key players, and establish the alleged hierarchy and operational methods of the organization. This phase of the Investigation was a silent, unseen force, working behind the scenes for months, possibly years, gathering the pieces that would eventually be presented.
The stand for more than 2 hours. She testified that investigators used social media posts and wiretaps to determine that the 7 defendants are members or associates of the Goodfellas criminal street gang. Police say the shooting stemmed from a gang war sparked by rapper Lil Baby, who they claim is affiliated with the rival criminal street gang 4PF. Last May, police say the hip-hop superstar filmed a music video in their territory and multiple people were shot.
I'm not gonna lie, this is absurdity to heights I've never seen before. They're doing all of this, claiming that a gang war was started because Lil Baby filmed a music video in the ops territory. Now, I'll be real. Do I believe that Lil Baby should have been more responsible? Because, like, the optics of you being a multi-millionaire coming to these people's neighborhood in your multi-million-dollar bulletproof trucks, bringing a lot of chaos there and then leaving to go to your mansion, the optics is horrible, bro. But to paint it as this man started a gang war and he has to be held responsible for it, it's kind of like, bro, like, come on, bro.
Which investigators say sparked
in a courtroom, turning private conversations and public posts into powerful evidence in a federal trial. The level of detail sought by the federal investigation was exhaustive, aiming to leave no stone unturned in establishing the alleged link between the collective, its leadership, and the acts of violence under scrutiny, particularly the double homicide that initiated the federal involvement. One of the most dramatic and unexpected turns in the legal saga came with the testimony of Lil Durk, another highly influential rapper and a former close ally of Lil Baby, took the stand, reportedly under circumstances where he was facing his own legal pressures. His appearance was said to have sent a ripple of shock and tension through the courtroom. A moment where personal loyalty and legal peril collided head-on. The history between the two artists was well known, built on musical collaboration, mutual support, and a shared trajectory through the music industry. Their alliance was seen as a powerful force in the rap world. The idea of one testifying against the other seemed almost unfathomable to outsiders looking in. Yet, according to the narrative presented in court, Durk was compelled to testify, his own legal situation reportedly creating a difficult dilemma that ultimately led him to cooperate with the prosecution.
For which he had absolutely no involvement, is unprofessional, unethical, and shameful, end quote. It continued to say Lil Baby is devastated about the situation because the teens came from his neighborhood. But a warrant paints a different picture, saying an ongoing dispute between the 4PF gang and the OMF gang eventually led to the fatal shooting of Freeman and Davis. According to documents, Lil Baby is an affiliate of 4PF, and the conflict starts in May 2024 when the rapper shot a music video in rival territory.
Testimony was allegedly devastating for Lil Baby's defense. While the specifics of what was said have been subject to much discussion and speculation, the core assertion made by the prosecution was that Durk's words directly implicated Lil Baby in orchestrating or facilitating the violence that tragically resulted in the deaths of the two young teenagers. This testimony was not just another piece of evidence. It was presented as a key that unlocked the meaning of other evidence. Prosecutors argued that Durk's insider perspective provided crucial context for understanding the intercepted communications and the social media posts that had been collected. During the extensive surveillance, he allegedly helped the court interpret coded language, identify who was giving orders, and confirm the hierarchical structure of the alleged criminal enterprise, placing Lil Baby firmly at the top or as a central figure in the decision-making process related to the violence. It felt like a betrayal, Lil Baby reportedly commented later, reflecting on the moment. Someone I came up with, someone I trusted, I see them on that stand saying things that were used against me. It hurt more than almost anything else. This testimony, coming from a former ally, added a layer of personal drama to the legal proceedings, making the prosecution's case
he should not have been.
Lil Baby and his music video are also named in arrest warrants for the shooting deaths of 13-year-old Lamont Freeman and Jacody Davis. Police call them innocent victims. The shooting happened last summer at the Oakland City West End apartments on Peoples Street. Police describe this as gang violence escalated by that Lil Baby music video shoot. Investigators say members of the Goodfellas gang orchestrated that attack.
Feel more concrete and compelling to the court. It was presented as testimony from someone who understood the inner workings of of the collective, not as an outsider speculating, but as someone who allegedly had direct knowledge of the events and the people involved. Durk's alleged testimony became a cornerstone of the prosecution's argument, bridging gaps in the evidence and providing a narrative that directly linked Lil Baby to the alleged criminal activity and the resulting double homicide. The tension in the courtroom during his testimony was palpable, a moment heavy with the weight of ruptured relationships and the high stakes of a federal trial involving a life sentence. The defense likely challenged the credibility and motivations of Durk's testimony given his own legal situation, arguing that he was testifying under duress or in exchange for leniency. However, the prosecution successfully utilized his account to bolster their existing evidence, creating a powerful narrative that resonated with the court and contributed significantly to the outcome of the trial, turning a strategic alliance into a pivotal moment in a legal battle for life and freedom. The impact of one artist testifying against another in such a high-profile case was immense, not just for the legal outcome, but for the wider hip-hop community, raising questions about
for workers, aka Mo, reacting to this. This is basically just a wiretap in which there's somebody talking about how Lil Baby has bounties on people's heads. This is not really like evidence of that actually being a thing. They're gonna need way more if they want to make that argument.
Yeah, but no, right? So here, okay, but like here's what's been happening too, right? So there's OMF, which is like Goodfellas, right?
Okay. And
then there's Baby, and there's 4PF. So when Baby filmed his like music video, right? And in Goodfellas like territory,
right?
They slid and they shot up like the neighborhood. Then Baby and them like slid back and they killed Trayvon Turner. So then they slid back and on like Baby and them and they killed the two 13-year-old boys, right? So then there's also a bunch of other murders, like I think 4PF Nate.
Loyalty, pressure, and the blurred lines between street ties and mainstream success. The prosecution's case leaned heavily on Lil Baby's own words, both in his music lyrics and his social media activity. They framed these forms of expression not merely as artistic endeavors or casual online interactions, but as literal blueprints for criminal acts, instructions, or boasts about illegal activities. Lyrics that fans had analyzed for their poetic merit or relatable narratives were dissected in court, interpreted by prosecutors as coded messages or direct admissions related to the alleged criminal enterprise. Phrases about loyalty, retaliation, or street life, common themes in the genre, were presented as evidence of involvement in specific illegal acts. They twisted my words, Lil Baby reportedly stated, expressing his frustration. My music was my story, my art. It wasn't a confession. It was supposed to be a way out, not a map to prison. Social media posts, from public declarations to private messages, were also scrutinized. Prosecutors argued that even seemingly innocuous posts, when viewed through the lens of the intercepted communications and Lil Durk's testimony, took on new incriminating meanings. The reveal that messages
saying, and this was done in favor of the gang, right? So then they got the 4PF Nate murder under gang files. Keontae Davis, who was set to be like the lead witness for the 4PF RICO, he got killed like 2 days ago.
Whoa.
So now they're saying, hold up now, bruh. All right. And now guess what? With the Goodfellas shit now that Baby and them is actually beefing with, where folks have died, for them to allude to there's bags on their head from
sent in disappearing mode on apps like Instagram had been retrieved and used as evidence was particularly impactful. It debunked the popular misconception that these messages were truly gone forever and highlighted the extent of the digital forensic capabilities employed by federal investigators. This digital evidence, combined with the wiretap recordings, formed a significant part of the prosecution's narrative, allegedly demonstrating the planning, coordination, and communication channels of the alleged criminal organization. Lil Durk's testimony, according to the prosecution, was crucial in adding chilling context to these recordings and digital messages. He allegedly provided the Rosetta Stone needed to decipher the coded language and understand the true intent behind the communications. His words supposedly transformed ambiguous phrases and slang terms into clear evidence of criminal planning and execution. This combination of alleged insider testimony, interpreted digital footprints, and wiretap evidence deepened the court's perception of Lil Baby not just as an artist, but as a key operator in the alleged gang retaliation that led to the deaths of the two teenagers. The prosecution argued that his status and influence within 4PF meant that his words, whether in a song, a message, or a phone call, carried.
But the fact that they went out of their way to put 4PF there, went out of their way to identify Lil Baby as the gang leader, says something. Now, I knew that 4PF was going to get a RICO for about 2 years now, and I knew this the second I seen what happened with 4PF Nate. Now, if you guys don't know, 4PF Nate, an associate of Lil Baby's, now he got sentenced to 40 years in jail for murder. But I knew that something was up at trial of 4PF Nate. 4PF Nate on your left, Keontae Davis on your right. Them two are being accused of murdering a man who goes by the name of Jaquavius Wilson. 4PF Nate was the shooter. Keontae Davis was present. So when Keontae Davis got caught, the police actually made Keontae Davis bite the cheese, all right? Keontae Davis is in paperwork identified
weight and could be interpreted as directives or approvals within the alleged criminal hierarchy. The defense likely countered by arguing for the artistic license inherent in rap music, the potential for misinterpretation of slang and coded language, and challenging the reliability of the digital evidence or the context in which it was presented. However, the prosecution's strategy of using the artist's own creations and all communications against him, illuminated by the alleged insider testimony, proved to be a powerful and persuasive approach in painting a picture of guilt for the court. The narrative woven by the prosecution effectively blurred the lines between the artist's public persona and the alleged reality of his involvement in criminal activities, using his own voice and digital presence as primary witnesses against him. This use of lyrics and social media as incriminating evidence in criminal trials has been a growing trend, raising complex questions about freedom of speech and the interpretation of artistic expression in a legal context, questions that were central to this particular case. The sheer volume of digital evidence presented, combined with the detailed analysis of the wiretap recordings and the contextualization provided by the alleged testimony, created a formidable case for the prosecution, portraying a
street location.
Yeah, one just flashed on the screen.
Okay, so we've already seen a portion of that then.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so you saw this video, and then you saw that the artist that's depicted in this video, John J. Smith, was also the person depicted in the disappearing message. And on what day was that message sent?
Sent on June 30th. I believe it was read on July 1st.
From what I've gathered, it's unclear why they sent J-Shot pictures and disappearing messages. I'm not sure, all right, because J-Shot is still alive and well. Maybe they were plotting on J-Shot, but nonetheless, though, they have those messages. Now, they also have a wiretap of them having a conversation. Now, on that wiretap, though, one of them actually implicated Lil Baby and said they feel like Lil Baby got money on their heads.
Sanders, the wiretap target, an unidentified gentleman that goes by the name Unk, or he's been referred to as Unk.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to object to this slide again.
A world where online personas and artistic narratives were deeply intertwined with alleged real-world criminal operations. The courtroom atmosphere reached an emotional climax as the trial neared its end. The testimony, the presentation of graphic evidence related to the double homicide, the cold, hard data from surveillance, and the dramatic appearance of Lil Durk had built an undeniable tension within the room. Each piece of evidence meticulously presented by the prosecution seemed to tighten the net around Lil Baby, painting an increasingly clear picture of his alleged involvement in the events that led to the tragedy. The wiretap analyses played for the court offered fleeting glimpses into the alleged communications of the collective. While perhaps cryptic on their own, when coupled with the prosecution's interpretations and the context allegedly provided by Durk's testimony, they became powerful tools, seemingly connecting disparate events and individuals. The social media evidence further solidified this narrative, showing online interactions that prosecutors argued corroborated the plans discussed in the intercepted calls. The prosecution's closing arguments were powerful, weaving together the threads of surveillance data, digital footprints, lyrics, and the alleged insider testimony into a coherent, damning narrative.
Street location?
Yeah, one just flashed on the screen.
Okay, so we've already seen a portion of that then.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so you saw this video, and then you saw that the artist that's depicted in this video, John J. Smith, was also the person depicted in the disappearing message. And on what day was that message sent?
Sent on June 30th. I believe it was read on July 1st.
From what I've gathered, it's unclear why they sent J-Shot pictures and disappearing messages. I'm not sure, all right, because J-Shot is still alive and well. Maybe they were plotting on J-Shot, but nonetheless, though, they have those messages. Now, they also have a wiretap of them having a conversation. Now, on that wiretap though, one of them actually implicated Lil Baby and said they feel like Lil Baby got money on their heads.
Sanders, the wiretap target, an unidentified gentleman that goes by the name Unc, or he's being referred to as Unc.
I'm gonna object to this slide again.
They showed Keontae Davis 3 pictures. 2 of them belong to 4PF Nate, so they saying, come on, bro, it's suggestive in nature. But nonetheless, though, Keontae Davis told, right? He bit the cheese, and 4PF Nate got 40 years in jail. Keontae Davis got probation. Now, here's the thing. Keontae Davis already identified 4PF Nate. It should have stopped there, but it didn't, right? Because you know what the...
If they're about to play the call, but her conclusions and her interpretation is not the evidence.
Well, I think she was just identifying who was on the call, so I'm going to overrule. Go ahead.
Okay.
Oh, what's up, huh? Oh, what's going on? Man, them folks, like, come on, bro, you know what's finna go on. Like, how the hell you can, you know what I'm saying? They ain't even like that, man. Them folks got tickets on a lot of these folks, I'm telling you.
We just heard somebody say these folks got tickets on these people. We know what's going on. First of all, who was that said that about the tickets?
Unc, the unidentified male that was being referred to as Unc.
And he's speaking with Mr. Sanders.
Correct.
And what, in your experience, do you know what tickets are?
A price on somebody's head.
What do you mean by what do you mean on somebody's head? What is that?
Like a bounty.
Okay. To have them arrested?
Harmed or killed.
And who were they referring to in that portion of the call?
They were saying that they had heard that Dominique Jones